All right, we are going to prep this big old picture right here for a half and half. Okay, so you do not have to use a square to do this. I could use a square. I've got a couple squares I can pull out to use this, but I don't want to confuse anybody. So really, it's not super important that your images are square. Okay, so that gives me my prepared image. Now this image is going to get attached to this piece of paper. A couple options for those of you out there who are not in my class. I've seen people do this before where you physically cut the picture in half and then you glue one half down and then you draw the other half. You can absolutely do it that way if you want to. We are going to draw the whole picture. We're going to use this half and half method to transfer the image over, and then we're going to draw. So the type of tape that I want to use, I use painter's tape to hold my drawing stuff to my board because the painter's tape doesn't make a huge mess on my board. But what you want to do here is you really want to use masking tape. So masking tape is strong, and masking tape is going to make sure that this picture can withstand a lot of abuse. I'm going to tear off a piece of masking tape. It's about a foot long. Okay, we're going to rip that into some smaller pieces. But the first and most important thing that we want to do is we want to cut this picture in half. I want to cut this picture probably in half this way because it'll be easier for me to work in halves, and it's going to be easier for me to turn back and forth and check my progress. You could work just this side and turn your whole paper like this. I don't recommend that because it puts a lot of stress on that edge, on that hinge right there. So if we cut it in half, it's going to give us a lot less stress on our paper and on our taped joint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this guy in half. Again, does not have to be straight. So don't perseverate on this being straight. You just cut this guy in half, and if I can find my X-Acto knife, there we go. You just cut this guy in half. Might not be a terrible idea though to get it right on those teeth. Anyway, we're going to cut that guy in half. A little bit more at the top. There we go. So we got her cut in half, and we're going to tape it down. So easy peasy lemon squeezy. Very simple setup. Does not have to be centered on the paper. We will end up cropping this later. So we always want to have a nice margin. I'm going to tear off a small piece. I'm going to give it an overlap. You guys can see, hopefully, with the light backing it, the overlap that we have here. It's about half the piece of paper or so. So then I just want to make sure I've got a margin on the top, I got a margin on the bottom. I'm going to tape this guy on. Now, to reinforce that, I'm going to do something that a lot of young people don't do. I'm going to tape the top, but I don't want to overlap this top corner. And I'm going to tape the bottom, not overlapping the bottom corner. So now this will open and close like a book, and it won't give you any problems. One of the reasons we do want this to be straight is so that this opens and closes cleanly and there's no bunching, okay? So it is kind of important that that's straight. It's not massively important, but it is important that that is fairly straight. So, all right, now what I'm going to do, really simple stuff. I think you could probably figure this out up to this point, is I want to lay this down. I want it to look like a complete picture. Obviously, you're still going to see a little bit of the cut, and then I'm going to lay down my middle piece of tape, and I'm going to repeat that process that I did just a second ago. And about 12 inches of tape should be plenty for assembling this picture together. So again, make sure that your top corner and your bottom corner are free, and then we have ourselves a picture ready to complete a half and half. Back we are with our half and half picture. I've got a stack of paper For my students, you can just use their portfolios. Their portfolio is folded construction paper, really heavyweight construction paper, so it acts as a pad underneath this. What we are going to do, and the main idea here, the main thought, the main concept of transferring this image over, is we are going to emboss the back surface of this paper. So embossing means to transfer a image or transfer a design or something onto the surface of another object to make it stand out in relief. And we're kind of reverse embossing here. What we want to do is we want to transfer an image onto the surface of something where it indents down. So embossing nonetheless, but slightly different definition than what you might be used to on embossing. Now, what I want to make sure I have here is a fairly sharp pencil. I don't want to have a big dull guy, because if I have a dull pencil, it's not going to transfer a clean line over. But if I have a really pointy sharp pencil, so you can kind of see I have a bit of a dull edge on the end of that. If I have a really pointy pencil, it'll actually cut through the paper. So what I've done is I have put my picture down on top of that stack of paper. It's all the way underneath. That stack of paper completely covers where my image is. And for my table, because it's angled, I've taped it down. So I've effectively trapped it on. For my kids, they work on flat desks, so they don't have to worry about taping down. But that's going to be the startup for this. Now, you do not have to press hard. We already have a thicker paper that we're drawing on, so it's going to compress down, but by putting that pad of paper underneath, it's actually going to indent the paper very well. If you think about it, the old detective trick where somebody writes down a phone number or whatever on a notepad and then they tear the page off, and then the detective comes along later and takes the pencil and turns it sideways and you can see the indentation, and they can get the numbers off of it. Same concept here. I figured this out a few years back, well, actually about 15 years ago. I was helping some students get exact locations of areas down, and I told them to put something soft underneath there and we'll indent it down, and then it just kind of transferred into this project. And anyway, there you go. So here's what I'm going to do. First thing I'm going to look for, anytime that I'm drawing a picture, the first thing I'm always going to look for is the black, because the black is going to give me the most important shadows in the picture. I got a phrase that I use. I don't know if I invented it, but I haven't heard it before. So maybe I did, but I call them my essential shadows. They're the shadows that I have to have in a picture in order to see the depth in the image. So what I'm doing here, you can actually see I am holding the paper steady. I'm holding the paper, and I am being very specific about the things that I am outlining. Okay, I'm outlining all of the stuff inside of the black as well as the black itself. Very important that you are very accurate with this. It's going to be tough to pick up in the camera, but I can tell you that I've got a bunch of little bitty areas through here that are not black, but they're very dark gray, and I've got some other areas with some eye shine, etc., that might give some people some trouble. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark that, and I'm going to show you guys. So I've just done the whole eye. I'm also going to go up here and I'm going to do the eyebrow. I'm going to draw this line across the top. That's going to help me understand where the any better. So then I'm just going to lay down a few really important lines to the face, which are going to be the outline, the silhouette of the face, but then also where the ear, the cheek, etc. are. So you can really see the way this comes along. I'm going to put one here on the nostrolabial fold like that, and you're about to see the magic happen here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up, and we're going to see how well this comes across in the video. Turn my light off, and hopefully, let's see if we can see that at all. I got to check the camera and make sure that's showing up. Oh yeah, that's showing up real nice. So I'll zoom in so you can really see the light interaction. We turn the light off. Yeah, you can see it. It may show up a little bit better here with the light on, but you can really see those areas are plotted out perfectly on the page. Now, as the artist, I don't want to go too far because I've just done like basically the black and then the general areas of the face. So what I want to do is I want to go back over to this. I want to make sure that I'm happy with everything that I've got. I'm pretty good with that. And then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to start to outline this. So there'll be some fast forwarding here, and we will kind of have an idea of what it looks like when we're done. So ready, fast forward. Okay, so we're back now. You can kind of see I really roughly filled in the black. This is by no means the final shading of this picture, but you can see by adding in those, going over and adding in those essential shadows, you can really see what we've got here. We're really starting to get a nice picture of a face here. There, of course, is probably at least an hour's worth of finishing work that would have to be done to different parts, but the way that I would progress on from here is I would go to the other side and I would get all the black. There's a lot more black on this side, but then I've got this background area too, and I might, if I wanted to really detail up this background area, I could go on and I could note those shadows and stuff, but I don't have to do that background. My students would do that background, but if you're just watching this on YouTube, you don't have to do that background. You can leave the picture the way that you want to leave that picture. But if you noticed in the fast forwarding part, I kept switching back and forth, checking all of my little spots and making sure that everything was where and how I wanted it. Checking to make sure, you know, what this line was and such. I don't think I actually have that. Do I have that line on there? I don't think I have that line on there. Well, let me add that line on there real quick. I want that line. There it is. So there we go. So you can go back and see little things here and there, and you can begin to add the ear details and the lip details and the mouth. So I'd go through and add all my black, and then I would go and fill it in. Then what I would do is I would go through and I would begin to identify what I would call my dark gray. So then I might go on and I'd kind of outline this dark gray area. I'd outline this over here. I might hit some of her freckle spots up. I go in the general shade. You notice most of her face over here is gray. But I'd find the darkest gray within there and I would begin to outline that. Now once I get to the dark gray, I wouldn't go through and outline it. I would just go through and fill it in. If I did outline it, I would outline it very lightly. Otherwise, she's going to look like she's got camouflage pattern all over her face. That's going to be really weird. So you don't want to do that. But your black, you're more than happy to go and outline because you're going to fill that in. So half and half, that's kind of the way that it works. And then you just progress through, but always do the black first. That way you have a foundation on your image that you can then basically draw from. Thumbs up, good luck.